I'm Connor Northrup, and I'm joined by former Rutgers University wrestler Richie Lewis. How you doing, Richie?
I'm doing good, my man. How about yourself?
Good, good. I mean, so obviously now we're in different times. I mean, what have you kind of been up to lately?
I just been training, man. So I have a local gym. I have a little bit of an isolation cell. So I'm seeing my coach still, and basically just seeing him, and we're doing one-on-one training, and we have one or two guys who we only see each other just to make sure that we're quarantined together and stuff. So I've been keeping up at my training.
Yeah. And now, where are you training out of too? I saw on Instagram you had a video of you kind of shadow boxing at Dante Rivera's. Is that where you're at?
No, so I'm actually training at Renzo Grace Academy in New York City
Okay.
with John Donaher and at Lionheart with Ash
All right, cool.
Albana.
Yeah. And I also saw too that you have a company that you just started, a nutrition company. Did you start that? Was that like before the corona? Like when did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so we started that. It came into conception maybe 8 months ago, and we officially launched as a business in January. We did really good our first month for a startup, and then the coronavirus hit. But we're working our way around it. We're gonna put out like a at-home free 30-day quarantine challenge and give away some stuff for free, just so everyone's home bored. They don't got the gym. People aren't sure what to do. So I'm gonna give a little bit of something that I'm personally doing and a program for guys.
Yeah. And what's it called?
Full Dimension Nutrition.
Okay, cool. And like, what kind of made you like want to do this? I mean, were you using products that maybe didn't have everything you wanted in it? Like, what was kind of the?
So we don't sell products. We sell a service, an online
Okay.
service. So I've always been really interested in performance. So whether it's mental, whether it's technique, whether it's being in the best physical shape, whether it's nutrition. So I really dove deep into all aspects of performance, and I think the most applicable one that I'm able to share and scale is nutrition.
Hmm.
So I created a little team, and I figured we could get going. I feel like, especially in combat sports, specifically wrestling and MMA, there's this 1% knowledge. Like the Lockhart and Leaf level of guys that know how to cut weight, know how to do things properly, know how to put carbs in at a certain time, put certain minerals in, put certain vitamins in, and mix different things to maximize your performance. And I feel like only the best guys have that. So really, I studied that information, and then I basically want to give it to the 90% that don't have it, the high school guys that are having trouble cutting weight, the MMA guys on the regional scene that don't really know what they're doing,
Hmm.
not recovering correctly. They're cutting 10 pounds instead of cutting 15 pounds, and then they're going in the next day and they're heavy. And with wrestling, it's different weigh-in rules, so it's anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hour rather than a 24-hour window in MMA. So I've adjusted it a little bit for wrestling
Yeah.
based on my personal experience.
Yeah. And you talk about your personal experience too. I mean, when did like the nutrition side of wrestling and MMA, like where did that kind of click for you, like in your career?
Uh, I would say my freshman year of college is when I started to peak interest in it. Uh, I was really bad with my weight. So I wrestled 141 in my freshman year in the beginning, and then I moved up to 149, and then by the end of the year I was 157. And then I kind of realized that how important it was, but I also realized that success isn't just determined on how much weight that you do cut, but it is a very important part of it. So my sophomore year, I really started to dive into it with like the biology and the chemistry of it, and then just built on it from there.
Cool. And now I know you eventually transferred to Rutgers, where your senior year you made the tournament. So with everything going on now too, like how look, being someone who was there, I mean, how do you feel for some of these guys that aren't getting that chance their senior year?
I feel like it really sucks, but I mean, life throws curveballs, man. I do have empathy, but you gotta get on your horse and keep riding sometimes.
Yeah. And then I know yesterday, I think it was yesterday, the NCAA announced that spring sports are gonna those athletes are gonna get their red shirt and will get a year. Do you feel like winter sports should get that too because they didn't get that postseason?
I mean, for sure, man. The NCAA is like I've never seen eye to eye with their logistics and their rules.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be kids, but they don't really give the kids a fair opportunity at certain things, and it's more like they have a dictatorship rather than really doing what's best for the guys. They're doing what's best for themselves, I believe.
Yeah. And what was like your 2 years at Rutgers? I mean, just kind of explain to me that experience.
So I did 3 years at Rutgers.
Oh, okay.
But my first year was really good, man. I came in. Obviously, I wasn't ranked or nothing. I was a new guy, Division One. I started off the season like 11-0, 12-0. Got ranked. Started beating some good dudes, and I finished up. I think like anywhere from like 10 to 11 ranked in the country. I went to the NCAA tournament, and at the NCAA tournament, in the pre-quarterfinals against Nick Bruschetta from Virginia Tech, I actually tore my labrum. So from that point on, I wrestled the rest of the tournament, and I didn't place. And then I knew something was wrong with my shoulder, but I really didn't know if it was really bad. I thought it was something that could just be rehabbed. We tried to do like 4 or 5 months of rehab. Didn't end up working. And then the new season comes around, and I got invited to the NWCA All-Star match, and I wrestled Joey Lavelli, who was a national finalist, against Jason Nolf that year. And I ended up beating him, but my shoulder had dislocated like 2 or 3 times during the match.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so then it was really important that I wrestled, though. At Rutgers, Jersey, we were still a budding program. We had just finished, I think, the dual season like 6th or 7th in the country. So I was a leader, senior on the team. So I tried to wrestle, and then I wrestled against Princeton, and I won that match. And then after the match, I went to get reevaluated, and it ended up getting worse. So I had to get surgery, and then I redshirted that year. And then I came back, and when I came back, my first tournament was the U23 World Team Trials, where I wrestled Divine Mays, who was a national finalist. I wrestled Tyler Berger, who was a national finalist last year, I believe, against Jason Nolf. And I beat both those guys, and that was all the way down at 154. So it was kind of like, wow, like I'm back and I'm better and I could do this. And then I went to the U23 World Championships, and I ended up winning that. And then when I came home, I got super heavy, and we had a match against Iowa. And another kid on my team, John Van Brill, was also top 12 in the country, and he was my backup at the time. And they were like, man, like you got to choose which weight you want to go, 157 or 165. And I was like, on Friday? And they're like, on Friday. And I was like, 172. And like, whatever weight you go, you got to go for the rest of the season. So then they convinced me that I would do good at either weight, and it didn't really matter. So I was like, you know what, I'll just go 65. I already proved that I'm a world-class wrestler, So let me step up to the challenge, and if I want to go 74 kilograms, which is 163 pounds for the Olympics, I'm going to have to adjust for the weight. It's going to take me a year to adjust to the weight properly anyway. So I moved up. I had a great season. I ended up being ranked anywhere from 3 to 5 in the country at the end of the year. And I had a heartbreaking loss to Chance Marsteller in the All-American round. So I ended up having my dream taken away from me, And I think that pretty much sums up my career, man, is the ups and the downs.
Yeah. And I know you have an interest in MMA too. Where did that kind of stem from? Is that just, not being finished as an athlete?
No, I think I've always known I wanted to go into MMA. So when I was a freshman, I grew up in a mixture of places. I lived in a couple of different homes growing up. I started in South Amboy. I'm actually back in the house that I was born at. But then I moved to Edison, and then I got in a little bit of trouble as a youth. So my mom moved me down to Toms River East, home of Frankie Edgar, the answer,
Yeah.
And I remember going up my first day of school, going up to the gym teacher, Warren Reed, who's a legend, 2-time All-American from Oklahoma. And I'm like, hey, man, do you know the wrestling coach? Or I'm a wrestler. And he's like, I'm the wrestling coach. And then he's like, you want to wrestle for us? I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, come to the auditorium. We have a UFC event going on. And I go to the auditorium later on in the week, and it's Frankie Edgar fighting BJ Penn for the belt.
Oh, wow.
And I seen his name on the wall my first day of school. So then I was like, man, I really love this, because I always grew up watching, Chuck Liddell, Jake Shields, but I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to do. And then once I seen Frankie fight and beat BJ Penn, I'm like a kid from the same area as me, becoming a world champion and defeating all these odds. And then from there, I kind of knew I wanted to do it. And then I went to junior college at Iowa Central. And then I go to school, and I look at the wall, and I see John Jones, Cain Velasquez, Colby Covington, all national champions for Iowa Central. And once I got there my freshman year, I was like, this is my destiny, man.
Yeah. And how has that too? Like as far as with MMA, I mean, when would you realistically like to make a debut? Do you have a time frame?
September.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, how do you feel like you've developed so far too in that MMA training at this point?
So I feel like I developed pretty well. I've been training jujitsu on and off with John Donaher and those guys, Gorda and Gary, for about 2 years. I've been traveling. I've been to AKA. I've been American Top Team. I helped out Colby Covington with one of his camps. I just did a camp down in Miami with Henry Cejudo. And I'm just was picking little things up along the way. And the past 2 months, I've really had a focus like every single day with a coach, with sparring.
Hmm.
So the past 2 months, I've really been training hard, and it's really been picking up. But I feel like I'm developing very well.
Yeah. How much has this pandemic right now like that put a pretty big rut in things? Do you feel like or?
No, not for me personally. I'm a big programmer, so I have everything planned out until September. 4 weeks we're gonna focus on this, and then 4 weeks we're gonna focus on this, and obviously things are adjustable.
Mhm.
But it just so happens that this 4 weeks I was gonna be with these two partners and this coach anyway. I would go to the city obviously to train with Gary and John, but that's the only thing that's missing really.
Yeah. And I know I've heard that Edgar will sometimes wrestle at Rutgers too. I mean, have you crossed paths with him a few times?
Yeah, so actually, every Wednesday, that would be our active recovery day. Those dudes would come in since I was a junior. So for my whole 3 years, it would be him, Corey Anderson, Marlon Marias, uh, some of the Russian guys. Mark Henry would pop his head in every once in a while,
Yeah.
and they would come practice. We would wrestle them, but it'd be like grappling wrestling. So it was cool. That was kind of my first real introduction to it.
Yeah. And now you mentioned Frankie and how he kind of walked the same halls as you at one point, but even just when you talk, you were a short conference wrestler. I mean, there's a lot of guys now who wrestle for the short conference who are doing careers in MMA. I mean, I know Medeiros is one, Ricky Medeiros of Bellator, Phil Caracappa, who I think is at CFFC now. And like, so what's it like kind of seeing these guys who were kind of in your shoes at one point? You see them be successful. I mean, does that just kind of give you I guess more hope of like being kind of cut from that same cloth?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us are very similar from Jersey. We all have that same attitude, and yeah, not to take anything away from anyone, but I feel like I'm cut from a completely different cloth also. So, my wrestling is on that next level, and it's about getting these hands next. So, I think that mentality holds true, but there's a big difference.
Yeah. Do you feel like a lot of that motivation too? I mean, I know you had mentioned earlier that you got in some trouble when you were younger. I mean, was that a big motivating factor, going forward into wrestling and then now MMA?
I think so because I always used to get in fights as a kid. As a youth, that was the thing that I used to do is just always fight.
Mm.
So I kind of knew it was my path, and I knew that I would never be like a blue collar working man. That's what my father was. I seen him get up at 4 or 5 in the morning every morning, come home tired, and he would tell me, man, like I'm doing this so you could have something special, so you could do something special. I remember as a kid, I would come home from school and how normal parents make you go and do your schoolwork? My dad would make me go do my push-ups, go lock me in my room, make me work out, and that was the main priority because he always wanted me to be an athlete. And he was actually a legendary basketball coach for 19 years at Carter McCarrick, St. Mary's South Amboy.
Oh, cool.
Won GMC titles, been in state finals, all that stuff. So he kind of knew. He kind of knew. I guess I was cut out for it because he's seen hundreds of athletes his whole life. So.
Yeah. And I know you said when you started wrestling, like, you kind of always had that vision of MMA, but, based off of like your dad's history too, I mean, did you always have an idea that, sports would be a part of your life for, a longer time past high school, past college?
I always knew because I knew I wouldn't be able to do anything else, man. If I wasn't doing this, honestly, I'd be a construction worker, or I'd be trying to do business.
Hmm.
But I'd start from the bottom in business, so I would probably be a blue collar worker.
Yeah.
Until stuff took off in my 30s or whatever. So I felt like this was the only way for me to achieve the life that I want to achieve, and my mom, you know, she used to drive me around as a kid and do everything for me, and she don't have retirement, you know. So she always says, "You're my retirement son. Like you're the one who's gonna do this." So I definitely hold a big pride in that, and I always knew that I was gonna have to do something special.
Yeah. And then, I mean, anything that maybe we didn't talk about or, you want to mention before I let you go?
No, man, just keep fighting the good fight, stay inside,
Yes,
isolate, don't spread this virus, so we can get things going, man.
exactly. Exactly. All right, Richie. Well, thanks for giving me your time, and I wish you the best going forward.
All right, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Peace.